Hello, I'm Ed Marsh, and thank you for joining me for this episode of my bi-weekly video blog, Signals from the OP. I draw on my consulting work with middle market industrial manufacturing firms to identify topics that are of pressing importance to senior executives and board directors. If you know of someone who would find value in this video, please share it with them. Today, let's talk about layoffs. There have been many in the news lately. Most of the headlines have been about layoffs in the tech space, and that's sort of a leading indicator. With a couple exceptions, the trend hasn't really hit industrial companies yet, as many of them still have full order pipelines as they dig out from a couple great years where selling was easy and their biggest problems were people and supply chains. We don't know what a recession will be like, how hard it will hit, or when, and there's conflicting signals now about a soft landing versus other scenarios. But here's the reality. Industrials will have a slowdown, and when it happens, companies will be struggling to figure out whether to reduce the size of the sales team, and if so, who to cut. It's a crummy situation for everyone, but it's real, and it's part of management's responsibility to everyone else in the company. So that's looming somewhere over the horizon, and it's not the only sales challenge companies face. SBI, the Sales Benchmark Index, just released statistics from their annual survey of CEOs. One jaw-dropping number is that an astounding 57% of CEOs are not confident in their chief revenue officer's ability to drive the business forward. For CMOs, it's actually 69%. I'll drop a link to that data below this video. So we've got two things cooking simultaneously. First, a large percentage of business leaders are not certain that their sales leadership is capable of delivering results. Second, it's likely that teams are going to have to be cut. What a mess. On the one hand, there's strong normalcy bias among traditional companies that are accustomed to periodic cycles. On the other hand, there's a lot of uncertainty. So what's a company supposed to do? In the industrial manufacturing space, there's actually a pretty well-established playbook that we can take from the operation side of the business. Let's turn to empirical criteria, facts, and measurable metrics. Now you may be saying to yourself, but sales and salespeople are not simple numbers. There's so much soft stuff thrown in there. Well, actually, using the right tools, there's a lot more clear data that we can identify. For instance, we can consistently know, not just guess, who not only can sell or lead a sales team, but in fact who will sell or lead a sales team, and we can do that with a predictive validity of 93%. That means two things. First, we can answer the part of the question the CEOs are asking themselves: is the person leading the sales effort capable of actually doing so? We can also answer that question about each member of the sales team, and that provides empirical data which companies can use to do scenario planning for sales team reduction. In other words, if you have to cut the team by 5, who would be the ones to go? Or if you need a 20% reduction, who would they be? Of course, that same data can be used to guide some training of the sales team. When you're clear on each person's real strengths and weaknesses, you can focus training effectively to prepare your folks for the very real conditions they'll experience during a downturn. For instance, discounting competitors and projects being subject to cancellation. Finally, the same sort of assessments can be used for potential hires too. That's important because some new talent will be available that you might consider adding to your team. That could be a net addition or an upgrade or replacement. In many cases, though, experienced industry reps have cycled through companies with consistently mediocre success, and candidates from outside your industry would have to be really strong to get the nod given the learning curve. A predictive sales candidate assessment can look very objectively at candidates to help avoid costly mistakes based on resume and interview exaggerations and gut feeling. So, to recap, predictively valid sales testing can do 4 things for you in this odd market situation we face right now. Number 1, it can help to answer the question you may be asking if you're like 57% of CEOs, whether your sales leader can do the job you need them to do. Number 2, it will help you take a detailed snapshot of your team. Think of it like an MRI that you can use to identify the weakest performers and those least likely to be able to perform in a recession, and you can use that to run scenario planning for sales force reduction. Think of it like a smart sizing scenario planning tool. Number 3, you can use the same sales MRI to plan and optimize sales training in the areas where your team will need support to succeed in a recession market. And number 4, finally, you can use the test to assess candidates who you're thinking of hiring to upgrade your team. We can't predict the specifics of a recession, but we do know that buying habits and behaviors have changed dramatically over the past 5 years. Yet many industrial manufacturers still market and sell much as they did a decade ago. That means that your revenue growth playbook may no longer align well with buyers' expectations. Indeed, some of the folks who excelled in past market situations may no longer be able to do so. So it's important to understand who's got what's needed for today's markets, particularly for a recession. And knowing that is incredibly powerful and helps you to make various critical business decisions around managing, hiring, and laying off. I'm Ed Marsh. If you found value in this episode of Signals from the OP, check out the full playlist and maybe even like it, share it, or subscribe either to my YouTube channel, edmarshspeaks.tv, or at the related blog signalsfromtheop.com.